This is Jeremy Lane of Northville, Michigan, living a dream that some thought he'd never realize, that of an accomplished drummer. As you watch Jeremy practice, you'll notice his extreme enthusiasm and love for what he does, and you'll also notice something else. He only uses one hand. Jeremy has cerebral palsy, which robbed him of the use of his right hand, but not for long. Inspired at a young age after seeing Rick Allen of the rock group Def Leppard perform to standing ovations. As we began our visit with Jeremy at his home, he started relating to us the epiphany he had when he saw the accomplishments of Rick Allen, who lost his arm in an auto accident, but went on to greatness.
Well, when I was real young, I always wanted to play an instrument. I didn't think I could because I was handicapped. That all changed when I turned on MTV back in 1987 and saw a video for Def Leppard. And I said, well, if he could do it, I could do it.
What makes him such a special person, Def Leppard? Was he,
well,
same situation?
He lost his arm in an automobile accident.
Okay.
And he pressed on, and they came out with the album in '87, and that's where I found, got inspired by him.
And it's culminated into finding someone who could give you lessons, take lessons. How did this come about, to get in touch with someone who can instruct you in the correct and the not so correct way to do things?
Well, it took me about 4 years to convince my parents to even play.
Okay.
And so when she finally said yes, my mother, she called around and got to the a music store called the Getfielder, where she ran into talk to Brian Harris.
Okay.
And then after she got off the phone with him, she says, well, he's heard of Rick Allen too. She wasn't too sure about that, if anyone really heard of Rick Allen. So then I started taking lessons with Brian for about 10 years, I think.
Well, I thought, no, this should be an interesting challenge because, you know, the whole foundation of drumming is based on right-left patterns. And so then adapting the whole thing to a single-handed concept, you know, was very different from the get-go. Everything drummers do is set up to be balanced between the hands.
Okay.
So it was a creative effort from the very beginning, you know. And what I started to realize, though, was that as long as you moved quick enough, you could kind of substitute notes here and there.
Oh, okay.
And because Jeremy's active arm, if you will, is his left, what we would do is turn the whole drum set around.
Oh.
So that the hi-hat and snare drum would come over to this side, the floor tom and ride cymbal would go to that side, and we just make that little switch every time he came in for lessons so that he could sit down and run the hi-hat and the snare drum with his dominant left hand, and also put his dominant left foot onto the bass drum pedal.
Oh.
And
okay.
I wasn't sure if it would work. But it did. You know, the thing is that Jeremy was very committed to it and kept working at it. You know, I think some of the things I had him do, he probably thought were a little ridiculous at first, but you know, helped to develop the technique to power through. And you know, he was actually able to play a couple of snare drum books that are industry standards, Book 1 and Book 2, which are written for two hands. He was able to play them both with one hand.
Oh, okay.
So I knew that that there would be success.
Well, when you do instructing students, can you see within them if they have the ability or the desire or even the gumption to do something like this? Is it something that's within before you even take on a student?
Well, I think that it's the basic ability, I think, is within everybody. Okay. I haven't come across a student who I just had to throw up my hands and say, you can't play drums. You know, everybody can. Not everybody is going to be touring the world with Def Leppard, but everybody can play. What I find most interesting in a student is when the motivation is there that you speak of, when they really want to play, when the drumming is something that's important to them. For some of my students, it's just one more hobby. You know what I mean? And they may only play an hour in the course of the whole week. But we have a student like Jeremy, it's a real pastime that he felt passionate about. And yeah, I mean, I think very early on I identified that in Jeremy. You can see it.
If you could say anything to people, or kids, youngsters, or even adults who have what they might think is a handicap and see obstacles that might be in their way, do you have any words of inspiration as far as telling them to keep the faith, or just to inspire them at all, Jeremy?
I would have to say press through that, because there's going to be times when people are going to come against you and saying that you can't do that. You got to press through that and say that, yes, I can, and you'll find out that you do have the ability. It's there, it's just, and then you'll find that the gifts will manifest itself.
But I also want to let everybody know that you also do other things. You're involved heavily in your church and in video production too. Well, we've played a few of your things on Michigan Magazine television, some of the things that are happening up our way near the museum. And you're heavily into promotion. And I see, as we look around your studio here, that all this equipment is just, you know, kind of very impressive. But on the wall, there's a couple of pictures that I see, and plaques that tell a little bit about your inspiration. What do we see here?
Well, the pictures you're talking about is a guy, Mike Portnoy, and he's from a band named Dream Theater. Rick Allen inspired me, but the style I play comes from Mike Portnoy. And my buddy and I went to their concert, and I just happened to take my camera just in case I got to go backstage, and we ran into a guy that had the tickets, and my buddy kind of overemphasized how I play. And we got to go backstage, and I got my picture taken with them. And then the next time they came to Michigan, I got to go backstage again and have them actually sign the picture.
Wonderful. So you're getting some support and inspiration from people like that.
Yeah, in fact, it was kind of interesting. When I went there, when I first told him I played drums with one hand, he started asking me all the questions because he knew about Rick Allen, and I was speechless because I was thinking, you're the pro, I'm kind of a Joe Smo drummer, you know, I'm trying to get information from you, and it's the opposite. So
well, when you get all this accomplished, or your dreams in focus, or what are you focused on? What do you hope to do with your talent?
Well, I would love to incorporate music with my calling. My calling involves with being in a church environment. So I'm just waiting on the Lord, seeing where the Lord leads, and see what happens.
And what happens is the rhythm of your future. Right?
Yes.
It is never too late. I have a student who studies with me right now who's 83 years old and who has been playing for 6 months, and she's doing fabulous. She's studying Dombek, actually hand drum. The words of inspiration I would say is, do go out, get lessons, let somebody help you and find your way, and listen to music like crazy. You can't listen to too much music, and that is the key, I think, to making it.
Well, Jeremy, it's been a pleasure to come down here to your humble cottage in Northville, Michigan, and we hope to see you on the highways and byways, and keep the faith, and thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for being on Michigan Magazine. Great. That's great.